welcome to another episode of The Demon's Den, your stop for horror history, stories, and more. I'm your host Hex, and in this episode we'll discuss a creature that good old Steven Spielberg made the world fear, and filled our summer fantasies with terror and scarlet water. Since experiencing Jaws and other shark movies, we've grown a fear of going into the water because we could possibly be turned into a red stain by a bloodthirsty animal driven purely on instinct and hunger. Sharks, just like any other animal with sharp teeth, just want to be left alone. But when people enter the infinite blue unknown, they enter their realm. Humans aren't usually on the menu, but when you're hungry and something is flopping around near the surface, well, you might as well be ringing the dinner bell. So, strap on the scuba gear and jump in the cage, because we are exploring shark attacks that ended, well, badly. Starting off in 2022 in the beach city known as Morro Bay in California. This bay city is known for its volcanic mound, its famous lagoons, and the story of one of the saddest Christmases of all time. On Christmas Eve in 2022, a man named Thomas Butterfield was boogie boarding in an area known as the Pit. This picturesque beach would be where we would all tragically end when a 16-foot great white shark fatally attacked Thomas, causing blunt force trauma, head injuries, and a gaping massive injury that went from his stomach to his back. He was brought ashore by another surfer, but he had already passed. Marine biologists of the area say that the area between Morro and Diablo Bay is like a great white shark heaven. Super warm and just filled with prey. They said that they've seen up to 8 full-grown great whites in an area half the size of a football field between those bays. Just imagine that for a second. Heading over to the East Coast back in 2018, we have another picturesque place known as Cape Cod, home of Martha's Vineyard, and the place where Jaws was filmed. Surprisingly enough, there was a white shark attack here. 26-year-old Arthur Medici, I hope I'm saying that right, was fatally attacked by a white shark while bodyboarding. What makes this so bizarre is that this was the first fatal attack in 80 years, even though the waters here are also a white shark paradise. So you would assume that more of these attacks would happen, but it remains an extremely rare occurrence. Maybe since this is the hometown of Jaws, people just want to stay away from the water. I don't know, it's just a guess, but I mean, hell, it makes sense to me. Heading down to the diseased dick of the United States, known as Florida, a 38-year-old windsurfer was attacked and killed by a swarm of hungry sharks back in 2010. Shark attacks happen more frequently here, but it's usually just a curiosity bite by the shark on someone's board, not a full-on feeding frenzy of thrashing sharks. Stephen Schaefer had multiple bites all over his body, but mostly on his buttocks. His arms were covered in wounds and bruises that showed he tried to stop the frenzy, but even with his efforts, he unfortunately succumbed to his injuries. Not all great white shark attacks are fatal. In fact, the same goes for all sharks. Humans aren't part of any shark's diet. That's why there's so few fatal attacks and mostly injuries. These big old boys are just curious, So they give you a curiosity bite. If they don't like or recognize what they taste, they just swim off. That's why we always see survivors and these surfboards with, those giant chunks taken out of them. Some people take a safer route when they dive and use a cage. These cages are used to study sharks and keep yourself safe at all directions. That's literally what these cages are designed to do. To go into the water and be indestructible. So, when the item fails to do what it's supposed to do, well, we got a story to tell. In the 2022 Shark Week documentary, Great White Open Ocean, we follow the diver Jimmy Partington, who is the past survivor of a shark attack. And now this dude wants to overcome his trauma. After that, anyone would want to stay away from any shoreline, but this dude was determined, and my goodness was it an experience to watch. So get this. Jimmy is in this clear cage, and it looks almost like invisible when it's in the water. Then this massive 16-foot shark that's been swimming around the cage comes up from the bottom, and it just bursts through the cage, just breaks right through it. He destroys the cage and just thrashes around in it, and Jimmy's just, he can't escape. I mean, if the dude wasn't traumatized by his past encounter, I can't imagine what this did to him. So, the only experience I have with a shark is when I went to SeaWorld. See, we all spent the day there, and I went there with my uncle, my grandma, my uncle's boyfriend, my brother, my cousins, and we saw one of those Shamu shows. I hate SeaWorld now, but, back then when I was a kid, it was an experience to see. So, it was late night, like late night. But my older brother wanted to check out the sharks, and surprisingly, it was still open. So we walked into the exhibits, into that tube where all the sharks are, and I was horrified. I closed my eyes, I looked at the floor, and I ran to the end of the exhibit, which is like this dark room with this giant pane of glass on the wall in the front as soon as you walk in. At the time, I had no idea that it was a window to the shark exhibit. Just a giant window to the sharks. I'm standing next to the window and I look up and I see this massive great white shark-like statue thing, and it's looking down at me with its mouth open, and boy did I scream so loud. I turned around, and what did I see in that window but a very slow-moving sand tiger shark that just inching its way across, just straight into view. I started crying. My family walked in and started laughing. Yeah, that's family of the year right there. Just laugh at your crying child, or crying nephew. Then they make my brother, me, and my cousin take a picture in front of the giant pane of glass. I haven't gone back, and I will never go back. Might check out an aquarium or something, but yeah, I'm never going back to SeaWorld. I'd be open to, checking out another shark exhibit though. That doesn't sound like fun. Yeah. Thank you for joining us for another episode of The Demon's Den. Join us next time for more spookums. Until next time, stay safe, lock your doors, and remember, if you're gonna go see some sharks this summer, binge on shark movies the night before. It'll either cure you of any fear or make things 10 times worse. It's your call.